In this video, we are going to write a simple program that will use two command line arguments to calculate gross pay and net pay of a 40-hour work week. In case you are unaware, gross pay is pay before taxes and net pay is pay after taxes. The first command line argument will be the hourly rate. It will be passed as a string and converted to an int within the main method. If you don't want to use a whole number as a pay rate, feel free to convert the first command line argument to a float within the main method. The second command line argument will be the tax rate. This argument will be passed as a string and converted to a float within the main method. With that being said, let's go ahead and write the main method. First, we'll convert the first argument, arg sub 0, to an integer using parse int, and we will use the returned value to initialize an int variable named hourly rate. Next, we'll convert the second argument, arg sub 1, to a float using parse float, and we will use the returned value to initialize a float variable named tax rate. Now that the two command line arguments have been converted, we can perform the necessary operations on them to calculate gross pay and net pay, something that would not be able to be performed if the command line arguments were left as strings. First, let's create an int variable called gross pay and initialize it to hourly rate times 40. Once again, this is pay before taxes, so taking the pay rate and multiplying it by 40 should be pretty straightforward, as we are writing this program to perform calculations off a 40-hour work week. Now let's create a float variable named net pay and initialize it to gross pay minus gross pay times tax rate, as this is a formula that will be used to calculate net pay. And we'll add one more statement to the main method that will be a print line statement that will print both gross pay and net pay separated by a new line character. Now let's open a command prompt and cd into the directory in which the Java file we just wrote is located. Once there, we can run the program by typing Java, the name of the file, in my case that's paycalc.java, followed by the first command line argument, the pay rate. I'll go ahead and put 35 for this example. And last, the second command line argument, the tax rate. I'll go ahead and put 0.1 for 10%. Next, we can press enter to execute the program, and we get 1400 as the gross pay and 1260 for net pay. Feel free to try out different pay rates or tax rates to get a good feel on how this program works. As you can see, writing programs that utilize command line arguments is one way to run a program outside of an IDE like Eclipse. While using a GUI or graphical user interface would be the ideal way for most to use a program, writing one that runs within a command line interface could be just as useful and is sometimes preferred in certain types of applications.